Welcome everybody to our online program on addiction and recovery from the Sunshine Coast Health Center up here in Powell River, BC. And we've been talking about the research that we're doing here. It's a fairly big project and probably will take about a year in total to complete it, collect the data, analyze it. But we've been finding some preliminary themes emerging, getting some preliminary results. Again, they're just preliminary, but they're actually kind of interesting. So I thought we'd take some time and discuss them with you. One of the results that we're finding, I've just got them written down on my paper here, is that the experience of intoxication appears to be basically the feeling of being absorbed in the moment, of being absorbed by whatever's going around the person doing the drugs. And this is actually quite an interesting thing. The participants in our research study, addicts themselves, have talked about, well, I get rid of all this clutter and everything, and I can just feel myself relaxing and just sort of getting into the flow of things. And the key thing seems to be the context, like what's going on around them. So for example, they may be watching a funny movie. And so they're completely absorbed in this experience of watching this movie, right? And maybe they are locked themselves in the basement and no one's around, and now getting absorbed into that experience, it might be loneliness or feeling isolated. Or Malcolm Gladwell, the writer, talks about a research project that was done in, I believe it was South America, where this drunken fellow, he got drunk, started waving a machete around, started killing goats and stuff. All the villagers were just, oh, the guy's insane, right? And the researcher, who's a white guy, he's sitting in the middle of a clearing, and the villagers are coming up to him and saying, you got to get out of here, right? There's this drunk guy with a machete and he's really dangerous, right? And so the researcher said, oh, geez, I better go. But before he could go, the drunk guy with the machete, who's apparently out of control and out to kill everything, sees him and then just changes. And he drops his machete and he shakes the fellow's hand and says, oh, very, very nice to meet you. And has a little chat with him, and then he says, well, if you'll excuse me, I have to get on my way. And he grabs up the machete and then goes screaming out through the clearing to go chase after the villagers. Okay? And the researcher was really struck by that because, yeah, this guy was very intoxicated, and yet he could just like flip on a dime as soon as he saw the white guy there, right? And so actually quite a few researchers are now saying, well, the act of being intoxicated is not like, oh, my inhibitions went down or anything out. It might be more this focused attention on whatever's in front of you. So for this fellow, of course, he's waving his machete around, but then he sees the white guy, so the context changes. So he changes to match the context. And then after he's had his little chat, then he goes back to his other context, which is, waving his machete around, chasing after the goats and the villagers, right? So it's interesting, this idea that it's an absorption into the moment, but the moment is dictated by a lot of things, probably the mood of the person intoxicated, but a huge part by this context. What's in front of their face? In fact, I've seen addicts who are high on LSD completely fascinated by watching an anthill. I've seen people on heroin play like these video games for like 24 hours straight. It's whatever's there is just completely absorbing them, right? So anyway, that was an interesting little discovery that we had. Anyway, we'll be back next time with another theme that we've discovered.